Discovering and respecting differences. Can exposure to an analysis of authentic, diverse, multicultural texts that explores differences in children enrich students' understanding of the people who make up our world? The three texts that I have chosen are Zoom, Will Paint the Octopus Red, and My Friend with Autism. They're all realistic fiction picture books that address disabilities. Zoom is the first book in my text set. It's about a little girl named Loretta who's in a wheelchair, and her mother picks her up from school and says that she's taking her shopping for a new one. They go to the store and they try out lots of different ones, but none of them are fast enough. Loretta finally decides that she wants this 92-speed dirt bike wheelchair, but her mom says it's too expensive. The store owner says, "Why don't you take it home and take it for a spin and see how you like it?" So Loretta does this, and she's speeding all over her town, and she gets stopped by a cop and gets a ticket. Needless to say, her parents are not happy at all, and they tell her she has to take it back. But suddenly her brother has an accident, and the parents try to take him to the hospital, but their car won't start. So Loretta, of course, says, "I'll take him." And she ends up getting a police escort to the hospital, and her brother is fine, so her parents decide, maybe we should let her keep this wheelchair. But she turns to them and says, "No, I don't want this wheelchair. It's too slow." It's just a really cute story about a little girl in a wheelchair, and never once is the fact that she's in a wheelchair an issue. She's not upset about it, her parents don't treat her any differently, and it is a great vehicle for allowing children to see that children with disabilities don't need pity. They're just like them.
We'll Paint the Octopus Red is about a little girl who is getting ready to have a baby brother. She's very excited and she has a bunch of activities planned for him when suddenly they find out that he has Down syndrome. She goes to talk to her dad about it, about her fears, and her dad kind of has the same ones. And the rest of the story just kind of proves to everyone that you don't have to be nervous. Education is important. You want to know how best to help them and make them feel like they're just like everybody else. And they realize together that little Isaiah is a great baby to have, and they love him very much. This book is a good opportunity for students to understand that children with Down syndrome are capable of being loved and loving back. It just is a good way to expose kids to Down syndrome in a positive way, and hopefully this will help when they are in gym or art class and they have Down syndrome friends in the class. My Friend with Autism is a great book to show the differences in the children with autism. It's all true information, but it's told from a little boy's point of view. He talks about his friend with autism, and he explains how he behaves and, how it might be different from other people. He also goes on to say how to deal with that and how to best be patient with children with autism. We have lots of children with autism now, and books like this are absolutely important to have in your classroom. It will just help children learn that you just have to be patient with them. Their behavior is sometimes different than ours, but that's okay. They can't help it. And patience is what they need. And sometimes they get very frustrated, and kids actually try to egg on children with autism at times. So I think educating them on it and helping them learn to deal with it will get rid of that uneasiness that children have about it. The rationale for this theme text is that it helps to explore the differences in the members of our society and in our community. We have lots of children with disabilities in our school, so exploring the differences that surround us will create positive images for children with disabilities. These books address the physical, mental, and emotional disabilities that we see every day. And I think it's very important because too often people with disabilities are depicted as needing pity, being unhappy, or they're just completely absent from children's literature. Studies have shown that teachers really only use texts like this when they actually have a student in their class that has some type of disability. And I just feel that it's important that we expose children to this all the time so that whenever they meet somebody, it's not something new, that they build up some schema about children with disabilities, about different cultures, about different ways people live, and that they realize that they're part of a community, that they aren't the center and everybody else around them is different, that we're all part of this big place and we need to respect everyone for who they are. The purpose for this multicultural text set is to build a set of texts that teachers can use that address all underrepresented groups in our schools. Our district has one building that I work in that serves several different special education classrooms. We have multiple disabled classrooms with children with Down syndrome. They're very low functioning, and they are in our hallways. They are included in our specials. Children are exposed to them. So they actually have a pretty good understanding of these disabilities, but I feel that presenting text that shows children with disabilities in a positive way will help students learn how to be better friends when they're together and to just have more understanding of the specific disabilities that they see every day. In addition to that, I want to represent the many different cultures that we have in our school. There aren't as many as in other schools, but we do have some Asian, some African American, some Middle Eastern, and some Hispanic students that I would like to include in the text. Not just if they're in the classrooms, but I feel that they belong in, these kind of texts belong in every classroom. I feel that these type of books will help build an understanding of the variations children see in each other, and hopefully this inquiry will build a knowledge base for children which will help them gain some understanding and compassion. I want children to see that, they are not the center and everybody around them is different. I want them to view everyone as part of a whole. These texts have been themed for K-2 classrooms in a low-income, predominantly white area and aim to provide interdisciplinary instruction in most subject areas. These texts focus on disabilities that are relevant to students in our school district. The entire text set explores many cultural representations that are present, though in small numbers, in our district. The texts are purposefully selected in order to respect the students who make up our classrooms. The timeline of this unit is undefined because it is ongoing throughout the year in every lesson. However, the 3 texts selected here can be used each day during a shared reading or as a mini lesson that explores reading, writing, health, speaking, and listening standards. The goals of instruction. These 3 texts serve as a mirror that reflects students' identities and a window into the world beyond themselves. Reading authentic multicultural literature and weaving critical literacy conversations into our classrooms gives children the opportunity to understand and respect their peers from a young age. Removing negative stereotypes about disabilities at a young age is imperative from a critical literacy standpoint. Molding children into educated citizens who are less self-centered and more understanding is the goal of this unit. This interdisciplinary unit will include reading, health, writing, speaking, and listening. When introducing the book Zoom, we will have a activity that generates some background knowledge for these children that have to do with being in a wheelchair. I'm going to display an image of a child in a wheelchair on a smartboard who does look happy, and the children are going to have a 5-minute free write in their journal that addresses how they are and this child are alike. During the reading, we will have a critical literacy discussion that, as we read through the book, we will ask questions such as, how does Loretta behave? Does it bother Loretta that she is in a wheelchair? How do you know? How are you and Loretta alike? Do you have a friend like Loretta? Describe the relationship between Loretta and her parents. And the final question will be, does anyone treat Loretta because she is in a wheelchair? I'm supposed to say differently. Hopefully from this they will understand that Loretta is actually just like them. She has a great attitude. She never even discusses for 1 minute the fact that she's in a wheelchair and that she's different from anyone else. When we're finished with this story, we're going to create Venn diagrams. We're going to individually compare Loretta to their self, and then when they're done, they're going to discuss it to their partner, and they can add more information from their conversations. When we begin working on the story, We'll Paint the Octopus Red, we will have an anticipation guide for the students to see what they know about Down syndrome. There will be a series of sentences that they have to read and think about, and they put a plus next to any sentences that I think are true, and a circle next to sentences that they think are false. The purpose of critical literacy discussions are that, you're putting everything that's true out there. You're touching on sensitive topics, but I believe just being honest and saying it like it is better. So some of these sentences, they have, the first one says kids with Down syndrome may have a flatter face and upward slanting eyes. This is a fact about Down syndrome, and people sometimes avoid talking about the truth, which is part of the problem. So we'll see, this will serve as a sort of pre-assessment for me to see what the kids know and where I need to go with the information. During the reading of this story, we will talk about the following critical literacy questions. How does Emma feel about getting a new baby brother? That's to get the initial feeling that Emma's experiencing. And how do her feelings change after she hears her brother has Down syndrome? And we will definitely make the children support their answer with evidence from the text. How does Emma's dad feel about Down syndrome? And also, again, what in the story gives us the clue of how he feels? And finally, what does Emma and her dad learn about Down syndrome? Finally, after the story is done and our discussion is done, we are going to revisit the anticipation guide. We're just going to see if they want to make any changes to it and discuss with their partner how their thinking has changed. And also, if they have any further questions, we will address them. When introducing the story, My Friend with Autism, our building schema activity will be to turn and talk. They will turn and talk to their partner about what they know about autism and generate any questions that they may have about it. Before we start reading the story, I will answer questions that I feel will help with an understanding of this story, but for the most part, we will wait until we're done to see if their questions are answered. During the reading of this text, we will stop and ask questions. We will think about, do we have any classmates with autism? Is autism a disability? What are some other disabilities that you know of? Can you tell someone has autism just by looking at them? How can that affect how someone with autism is treated? It's important with this disability to understand that children with autism look just like everyone else. So sometimes their behaviors seem strange, but if we understand this disability, we understand that although they look like us, they don't feel like us all the time. Do you ever have the same feelings as someone with autism? This is addressed, their feelings are addressed in the story, and I want kids to see that they do have the same feelings at times. They just know how to deal with them better. How can you better understand our classmates with autism? At the end of the story, we'll discuss, ways that we can better interact with children that we know that have autism. At the end of this lesson, the children will have an exit ticket that they have to complete, and it's just going to be, what are 2 facts that you learned about autism? Video diary. As a result of creating this project, I have realized the importance of recognizing and educating students about disabilities. I've also discovered that people with disabilities are grossly underrepresented in text, and we need to make a concerted effort to change this. More and more children are being diagnosed with autism. People with Down syndrome are living full lives and are a part of our community. By the time children encounter people with disabilities in their communities, they may already have integrated negative stereotypes and prejudices and may display fear or uneasiness. Introducing young children to literature with diverse and textured depictions of people with disabilities can help to offset societal prejudices and instill healthy attitudes about a population of people larger than any single ethnic, racial, or cultural group in the United States. Education is the key to eliminating negative stereotypes, and it gives us the knowledge and understanding we need to respect differences in all people. I enjoyed learning about new ways of creating and promoting peace in our world through using positive, authentic, multicultural texts with our students. The most challenging aspect of this project is the technology. As a matter of fact, if this thing doesn't post, I'm thinking I may have to stop the online masters and attend face-to-face classes. Otherwise, I could possibly have a breakdown like I did this morning. Thank you.